Hello, hello, hello. It's Nicholas Rosinski here with week 4 of a 13-week odyssey touring the frontiers of therapy and spirituality. And I'm particularly looking forward this week in week 4 to introducing a spectrum of approaches that build on and extend Richard Harvey's original and extraordinary articulation of sacred attention therapy, or SAT. And to find out more about SAT, please visit www.centerforhumanawakening.com. So last time I talked about a particular view of reality, which explains the emergence of a dream via a miscreation or misstep of some souls trying to take onto themselves the self-creating aspect that properly belongs only to the ground of being. I also talked a little bit about the arc, the agency that restructures consciousness, and how it plays a role in helping undo that creative misstep. So today I'm going to take that reality, dream, arc, matter viewpoint and relate it again to sacred attention therapy, or SAT. But before I do that, I just want to mention that you don't need to believe or have faith in this reality, dream, arc, matter viewpoint in order to participate in the return to real reality, this tremendous project of awakening, of human awakening and the awakening of matter. So the arc as a fundamental reality component is available everywhere, actually both in real reality and in the dream or illusion of separation. Richard often uses the word grace, particularly in talking about stage 1 awakening in SAT, and I hold the arc to be the agency that executes or affects the action of grace. Other words that other traditions or approaches use are things like presence, compassion, the action of truth, and so forth. And again, I see all of these things as the agency of the arc in helping us all return to the real reality that we never left. And so the arc, whether you refer to it in that way and place it in this particular reality dream viewpoint that I'm using, the action and agency of the arc is available in every authentic transformational modality. So on to SAT as one particularly powerful modality. As a reminder, core or standard SAT is a 3-stage process facilitating transformation from identification with early life issues to identity as a truly loving adult, to an authentic realization of cosmic oneness in lived experience and not just as an abstract idea. Now, SAT is a means or vehicle for leaving the dream and reclaiming the real reality we never really left. But how does SAT address the origin of the dream and the nature of matter? In a moment, I'll quickly sketch 4 different versions or flavors of SAT with different takes on the origin and matter questions. None is inherently better than another, and as I'll explain in a couple of weeks, a major component of the game here is finding the right approach for you, the right SAT version or the right non-SAT modality. So the first of these 4 versions is what I call SAT AB. It doesn't examine the fundamental origin of suffering, although it goes very deep into separation, division, and polarization. And in this caricature, and again, these are just orienting sketches here, SAT AB's stage 3 target is something like Buddha nature or Buddha mind or the true self of Advaita Vedanta. AB here stands for Advaitic Buddhist. Importantly, SAT AB's relative non-attention to origin and matter issues is not a flaw. As the Buddha himself was reported to emphasize on at least one occasion, for many people, these questions can simply be a distraction. So on to sketch 2. In what I call SAT C, we add in a ground of being, or GOB, beyond but not separate from Buddha mind or the true self. And purely for expository purposes, I use the term Christ consciousness for true self in unfettered communion with the ground. This doesn't make SAT C a traditional Christian approach. The transformational point of this SAT C cartoon is that by accommodating the self-ground relationship, it's possible to consciously navigate the creative origin of suffering as a dysfunction in the soul-self-ground relational axis. This is what we looked at last week. soul or souls trying to assume the self-creating status of the ground. Now, Sat-C still doesn't explicitly examine matter. If we add in the bit of last week's picture that suggests the energy content of matter is alleged separation-induced guilt and fear, then it becomes meaningful to talk about the awakening of matter in the dispelling of that guilt-fear energy. And the awakening of matter extension of Sat-C is what I call Sat-C+. Now finally, and it turns out crucially, if we develop a rigorous and precise version of science that meets Sat-C+ in its view of matter, we get Sat-C++. This is Sat-C's soul self-ground view, plus the awakening of matter, plus what I call Science 5, an awakening of matter congruent, recognizably scientific, local reality theory. And I'll talk a bit more about the specifics of Science 5 in week 10, and a lot more in a forthcoming standalone course. So that's been a lot. Again, in a couple of weeks, I'll reiterate my point that the bigger Sat-C++ is definitely not necessarily better than Sat-AB, for example, in every circumstance. Before that, though, next week, I'll explain the unique contributions of Sat-C++ at the frontiers of therapy and spirituality that I sketched out in week 1. Sat-C++ isn't always better than other Sat versions, but in some places it offers unique and precious things that others can't, particularly on the road to the next great phase of human civilization. I'm Nicholas. Thanks for watching. See you again.